On today's episode of Locked On Avalanche, the Avs return from break with a back-to-back and lose them both. Not how you wanted to start after this break. Let's talk about it. New episode of Locked On Avalanche coming at you.
You're Locked On Avalanche, your daily podcast on the Colorado Avalanche. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
All right, everybody, welcome to the Locked On Avalanche podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I'm your host, Chris MacFarland. With me, as always, Mr. Shaggy Von Doom, Kyle Sullivan. Thank you for tuning in and making this your first listen of the day. Always appreciate it. If you want to get in on the conversation, then definitely subscribe to our subtext. Link is in the show notes below. Chat with Kyle and I one-on-one. We get your opinion, everything Avalanche related, and we share it on this very podcast. We'll get to the subtext people a little bit later. Lots to say about this game, the weekend in general, and just where the Avs are as a whole. And it's weird to say that because it's just you felt good going into this break in this whole 5-game playoff atmosphere that Jared Bednar created for the team. And they answered that call. So you felt good. You go into the Four Nations break, and then Team Canada wins it. And, you know, if you're rooting for the Avs in that particular event, you feel good. So there's good vibes going on. And then the first weekend comes and you lose both games to division rivals and teams that are below you in the standings. Absolutely not how you want to start. And it's not necessarily the second half of the season, but, you know, after the break and heading into the last gauntlet of the season. Completely not what you wanted, Kyle. You could not have this. You could not start any worse for the Avs.
It's honestly, it's unexcusable. Like there's no reason for this. This honestly could not have been a more favorable matchup to get your legs underneath you for the Avalanche and makes up some ground. Like anytime you would have said Nashville and St. Louis back to back, you're like, okay, fine. I feel good about the Avalanche chances. And especially the emotional high of taking home the gold in the Four Nations tournament, you would anticipate, you know, everybody kind of being fired up to bring the boys home and get back to the winning ways. And my God, they are who we thought they were. And we had the conversation on, is this season a disappointment? And you brought up Buffalo, and look at what they did to the Rangers coming back from this break. And the Avalanche look like they completely this looks like the beginning of the season Colorado Avalanche. Nobody looked good. Nobody showed out. And the names that pop up on the stat line, you're just like, that's cute, but where's everybody else?
Honestly, man, like I've said it so many times this season, but like you just said, like this is who they are this year. You are going to get good games from them. You're going to get bad games from them. You're going to get everything in between from them. And the whole maybe this is what gets them going mantra. Like you can use every phrase in your toolkit to try to explain like what's going on with the Avalanche, and you can't do it. You cannot do it. They are just an inconsistent team. Now, can an inconsistent team make a dent in the playoffs? Yeah, but you don't know. Yes, they can, and no, they can't. Like it's both of those answers, and I hate talking out of both sides of my mouth, but that is what this team is. Kyle, this game, I hate to say it, but I was bored watching this game. I've never really like the way that the style the Avalanche play. It's very difficult for them to play boring hockey. This was boring. This was like they had nothing. Give a ton of credit to St. Louis. St. Louis played like a team that's they're gonna make a run as best they can for these last 20-something games. They're gonna make a run for it. They showed like it. And the Avs had no answer, which is just weird because usually they do. They have some answer. If you want to say they had an answer in the last 6 minutes of the game, go ahead. But why are we talking about that? Why are we talking about the last 6 minutes of the game is when you guys figured it out? You're better than that. You're a better team than that. And they have these games, and it just stinks that they're more often that they have these games than they don't have these games. And we love to tout how they're great on back-to-backs. And their second game on back-to-backs is the best in the last, if you go back, I don't know, 3-4 seasons, whatever it is, like their record is the best on the second game of back-to-back. This was the game against the Blues was maybe one of the worst games of the year. The game against the Predators, it wasn't that bad. Like I thought the game against the Preds, I thought they played a good game. And here's another thing that we've been saying. They just got goalied. How many times have you said that this year where they can't solve a hot goalie? And it goes back to another thing where it's like, oh, you had a decent game and let's see how you follow it up. Sometimes they follow it up with a good game. Sometimes they follow it up with a stinker. This one was an absolute, no doubt, fall down stinker against the Blues. I was bored watching this game, and that is just surprising to say for an Avalanche team.
And see, and to everybody who thinks I'm a little too critical of the team, these are the moments that I'm talking about. And you got to take a step back and look at this team as a whole. Like, this team they have good players. They're just not a good team. And they're playing like they have the Central locked up, like they have their position in the playoffs locked up. It's like they're not looking at the standings and seeing they are a literal wild card team right now. Like, they should not be rolling into Nashville, rolling into St. Louis with swagger and, yeah, we won the Stanley Cup in 2022 and la-di-da-di-da, and we have Nathan McKinnon, Cale Makar. That's not enough. Like, when does losing games bother you? Like, this team, you complained about the goalies. We went out and got you 2 brand new ones that were very good. Then this team wasn't getting fired up, and you had Taser sounding off in the locker room. They traded Mikko Rantanen because the contract, they weren't reaching an agreement on the contract, and they had to fire the team up some way. And guess what happened? It fired them up for a little bit. Nate just looked great. And then rolling into the Four Nations, you felt good. And then you came back, and this is what happens when they rested up and got comfortable again. They don't, like, there was no energy. Like, yeah, they got goalied against Nashville, but my God, it's Nashville. Listen to Locked On Predators. They will tell you every problem that is going on with the Predators and then some. This is a team the Avalanche should handle and should want to handle if they want to have a comfortable spot in the playoffs. You talked about inconsistent teams in the playoffs. This team can't even beat the Blues and the Predators. I don't know how they're going to make a way in the playoffs with anyone.
That's the thing. Yeah, they can't beat the Blues and the Predators, but right before the break, they beat the Oilers. And, it's just, you can't put your finger on what this team is going to do game to game. You can't do it. And we do this back and forth thing of, okay, we're doing it now. They lost to the Blues team and they looked terrible in doing it. And we're like, you want to go to that's who they are. This is a doom and gloom team. And then who's their next game? Is it the Devils next game?
It's the Devils on Wednesday.
And let's just say, like, they play incredible and score 5 goals and they win 5-1. And now we're back on that's what they can do. That's what this team can do. Let's see more of that. And maybe you do for a few games. We saw it before the break. It's just, I am done trying to figure out this team, and I am living with them on a game by game basis. And if they come out and they win a game, that is just that game, and good. And you need points. So good. So you won that game. We're too far into the season to say, like, okay, we can put our finger on how this team plays, because on a game by game basis, like you can't do it. And for this game specifically, like, they were just over and over and over again, just dumping and chasing, losing every single battle, and St. Louis goes the other way. They did not win a battle against the boards. It wasn't dumping. It wasn't a dump and chase. It was more or less like a dump and waste. Like, you're just throwing it in, and that's the end of the possession. They had nothing. How many breakaways did they have? They didn't have a single breakaway in this game. Nothing. Nothing.
And they didn't even challenge plays. Like, St. Louis would gain the zone, and defenders would not skate through or engage or make the play uncomfortable. They would I watched it so many times, I was getting frustrated that they would skate up to their man and just kind of hustle back into defense and not challenge and make the play uncomfortable, make them make a move. There was so many, like, skate backs instead of, it was the most frustrating thing. They were playing to not make a mistake and not playing to win the game. And there was no buzz. There was no energy. There was no driving force. Whenever they had the odd man advantage, they would sit there and cook the puck I was absolute. You said it was boring. I was frustrated because we talk about the highs of this team and what they're capable of. And when you have back-to-back outputs where you got quote unquote goalied against Nashville, which you should win, even if they have a great goalie, you should figure it out with everything we saw from Nathan McKinnon, Cale Makar, Natchez, Ross Colton at times. Like you could see scoring. You could break a goalie with this talent.
Sure.
And if that didn't bother you enough, well, then the next day you walk into St. Louis. Oh, I'm frustrated. That was the game we should have had. We're going to get it tonight and come out with less of an effort. Hey, St. Louis is on a back-to-back too.
Yeah.
And they absolutely schooled you.
Mhm.
It was the most frustrating thing. Like, I know what this team can do, but they just don't want to do it. And that's the key. Underline that. They don't want to.
There's a couple of things that really stood out to me. I want to get to those next. We'll do, if you're watching on YouTube, second bullet point I got in there is why wait to the deadline? Why wait? So I wonder if Chris MacFarland is working the phones as we speak. So a lot more to get to on this episode. Of course, we got our subtext people. Of course, our sound check. We'll do all that next. All right, if you're looking for a snack that's both delicious and nutritious, crack into a good source of protein with wonderful pistachios. Wonderful pistachios is one of the highest protein nuts. Each 1 ounce serving has 6 grams of protein, giving you over 10% of your daily value. Plus, they are packed with fiber and better for you unsaturated fats to help you keep you going fuller longer. I am the no shell guy, as we've been talking about before. Kyle is the shell guy. It's just too much work for me, Kyle. I'm at the age where I want to do as less work as possible.
I was a Ninja Turtles kid. I'm always about that shell power.
So get snacking and get cracking with the snack that packs a protein punch. Visit wonderfulpistachios.com right now to learn more. All right, a couple things that stood out to me in this game, and while one was like they only had one power play, I believe. I think that was the only power play of the game.
One apiece.
The Blues didn't have any.
Yeah, you had one in the St. Louis game and one in the Nashville game.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Yeah. And in that power play, like you could see the Blues like pressure. They were not just playing defense around the perimeter. They were going after whoever had the puck. And in that instance, you got to get out of your mold of just passing around the perimeter. You got to do 1-2 passes and just shoot the puck on net because they're so far out of position. They're right up on you. They were pressing even if it was Nathan McKinnon, even if it was Cale Makar, who are great stick handlers and puck handlers, they were right on them. So fire the puck on net. And they tried to do the whole passing and finding the perfect shot. And that was the other thing, Kyle. It was just that was a game where it's like the Avs needed to be perfect to score a goal. And St. Louis was doing the most incredible job of getting them out of being perfect. They were making them just fumble over themselves, horrible passes, terrible turnovers in their defensive zone on a number of occasions. I give a ton of credit to St. Louis for winning this game. And where you mentioned the frustrating part. The frustrating part comes in that the Avs couldn't combat that. They couldn't figure out a way until the last 5 or 6 minutes of the game to really kind of force the issue, impose their will, and get finally some really solid looks. Because before that, it was just pedestrian, dump and chase, lose the puck, and you had nothing. And I mean, Valenchuskin cannot come back soon enough. The Avs have 0 net front presence, none. And when you don't have that, in at any point of the game, you're not going to collect rebounds. You're not going to mix it up in front. All of the things that come with what a Valenchuskin can do in the net front, you don't have it. And against a team like St. Louis, and you definitely teams in the playoffs, that will show, and that will just come right out and smack you in the face. Be like, well, we got nothing up front.
I have 2 points. One, to add to yours, you know what's even more frustrating about all of that? The Avs scored first in both games, and that was it. They clocked out. They let Nashville come back, win 2-1, and St. Louis 3 unanswered. Like, you got out there, you scored, and that was it. The effort stopped. You clocked out. And my second point, I am at the point where I'm officially done saying I can't wait till somebody comes back. This team should win night after night with the roster they have. Val Nichushkin, yes, he's a great addition, but I'm done with I can't wait till Landeskog comes back. I can't wait till Newt.
Definitely Landeskog. I'm not saying that anymore. Yeah.
No, but this team, as it is, you are paying this whole team to win games. And Val Nichushkin is not, for 15, 20 minutes a night, is not going to this against Nashville and St. Louis. Going in, you say, oh yeah, this is going to be fun. I can't wait. I can't wait to see what they do to Bennington and Nashville. They're a train wreck as it is. And then when you lose the game, Nichushkin, I can't wait. No, I can't. I'm done saying I can't wait till insert player name here comes back and fixes this team. When going in and you're doing your preview and you're feeling good, you beat Edmonton, you're high, you feel great about where this team is going. But when you lose, oh, I can't wait till my favorite player comes back from injury. Those days are done. I'm done saying that. This team should have beat both teams on this back-to-back, especially coming in with the Four Nations high and the energy that you put on the biggest hockey spectacle in the last 30 to 40 years. That should carry over in the locker room. Cale Makar hit 400 points, fastest in so many games. Like there are so many reasons the Avalanche should be winning these games. I'm not going to keep holding out hope for somebody else to come fix things, because you fixed the goalie position, you brought in Natchez, you brought in Drury, you brought in all these pieces, and when they don't work, you can't keep looking at the IR and saying that's the missing piece, because this team is built to win. They just will not. It's an internal thing. It's not a piece. I'm done with that conversation.
I will agree with you with the Landeskog part. The numbers are pretty glaring though when it comes to Val Nichushkin and with the team and without the team. Well, then, and there are guys that do bring, you know, something to the mix. And when it's what he has that is clearly something the Avalanche are lacking, that is what I miss. That like if he was just another guy that did more of what is already out on the ice, you're 100% correct. Like this team, he doesn't do anything different than the guys that you're already putting out there. Maybe he just does it at a little bit better clip, a little bit better rate. But he does so much for this team. Like his forechecking is top of the line. The presence on the power play and then the net front presence. Like, and when you're missing that, I need that back. And you can look at it's been so long. I don't remember what the record is, but it is just a complete 180 when he does not play with them compared to when he does. Well, so you do need him back.
Well, you didn't need him when you were winning all those games. And like I think honestly, games like this, we should hold Nathan MacKinnon and Cale Makar a little bit more accountable. We'll sing the praises all day long as they win. But when they lose, the first thing we do is say, oh, if we had Nichushkin. Like when you're beating teams and you're playing in that playoffs, like you're winning 4 out of 5, 5 out of 5, you're putting games together, you're not even talking about him. Oh, it's going to be nice when he comes back because look at how they're rolling. Like Nathan MacKinnon's leading the league in points. Like you get to tout that all day long, but when they lose games like this, it also falls on the guys that we talk about because Nathan MacKinnon didn't show up. Cale Makar got that taser tip and he was on the assist. But like the guys that we put on the posters for the Avalanche, when you lose games that you honestly have no business losing and you're sitting on a wild card spot, you need to ask those guys, hey, we can't keep losing games and this has to bother you at some point. And we can't just say the fictitious Nichushkin when he comes back. Yes, it's going to be an addition, but this team, top to bottom, Natchez, Drury, Colton, Wood, like he was trying.
I thought Wood played a pretty decent game.
Like he looked all right. Yeah. Like Gerard was bad, but like you can't put it on like Josh Manson not being there and Val Nichushkin, just 2 players out of a full roster. Like this roster should be good enough to beat St. Louis and Nashville. And when they don't, you've got to start calling the guys at the top who are leading this team.
So then what do we do? Like, like I said, what is Chris MacFarland thinking right now? You got to imagine the Avs are going to make some moves. The deadline is not that far away, but they have also shown they like to, there's going to be deadline day moves likely. But look what the Avs like to do is do a little bit beforehand. They've done it this year already with both goaltenders and Mikko Rantanen. To get the new guys as much time as possible with the team. So would it surprise you if tomorrow or sometime this week we hear that the Avs made a deal and bring in something, and it could be a Middlestat. I thought Casey Middlestat had a really bad game.
Yeah,
he had a couple. He had a moment where he had a good play. I think it was he knocked the puck away from Parayko, bounced it against the boards to himself, and a good look. Yep. Very nice play. But he just looks so unsure of himself when he has the puck.
Get blown off it too.
Oh God. Like there was one. Yeah, I think I know the exact play you're thinking of where it was just so easy to move him off the puck. So I don't want to get too far in the middle set thing, but like a deal like that, could he be on the way out, or is it just let's focus on the depth stuff because that is obviously some of the stuff that we need, or is this just across the board? Hey, let's really shake things up right now. I don't know, man. What do you think?
Honestly, the precedence has been set. Mikko was traded. He's no longer a member of the Avalanche. I think other than Nathan MacKinnon and Cale Makar, and I mean it, Nathan MacKinnon and Cale Makar, that's everybody else would not surprise me at this point. If the Avalanche
Taves ain't on the list. Taves is
he's going to he's not going to command that kind of value anywhere else because they know he's like an Avalanche system guy, and Bednar, that's like his little mouthpiece in the locker room. He does the talking for Bednar. So that's your three. Everybody else is up for grabs. Lehkonen down, Drouin. If you're going to get something to fire up this roster, but again, does management believe this is a team that can make a push in the playoff? They already said they're not deep enough, and you can see that they're still not deep enough. And that's the other thing with how this team is up and down. One night you say, oh, one more depth forward and maybe a defender. Another night you're like, oh, maybe two more defenders, a veteran defense. The needs change night to night because this team has not shown you what they really are and what they really need because it changes. We did a central crossover special talking about what we want from the trade deadline, and I couldn't tell you. Going into the Four Nations, I felt probably one more veteran depth forward and maybe one more defender, and the Avs should be all right. But now both goalies looked normal. You got Manson out for a while, so maybe two more defenders, maybe another depth forward or two. And do you need somebody else to come in here and start scoring goals? And if you're going to command that kind of talent, that's going to command a price tag, and some of your talent's probably going out.
We'll see. It wouldn't surprise me if they do something soon. We have to stand by and just see what they do. But something's got to shake it up. Something's got to, and when they do make deals, with Mackenzie Blackwood, you had a nice little run. It's like when you have a coaching change, they go on a nice little run. So for the Avs, it was Blackwood, and then even when Martinez came in, they had a nice little run there as well. So can't keep relying on that though. You can't keep saying hey, we're going to make trades all season long. To you know what I mean? So
we're not the Miami Dolphins.
No. All right. So a couple more things to get to, and we're going to take a look at the next few games for the Avs because they are at home. This is a 6-game home trip. I guess they're on home stand that they are on. So let's take a look at that, and we'll do that next. All right, when the game tips off, the NBA action is just getting started, and there's no better place to get in on the action at FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. With FanDuel, you can place live bets throughout the game, so even if you miss the opening tip-off or want to bet on a fourth quarter comeback, you can stay in on the action, and if you're looking for a bigger payout, you can even combine your live bets into a same game parlay. And right now, new FanDuel customers can get $150 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins. Just visit FanDuel.com and join today. That's FanDuel.com for your shot at $150 in bonus bets and make every moment more with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. All right, want to get over to some subtext people here so they can chime in on this stuff.
Make me feel better.
Yeah. Adam very, very simply just said sadness. So much sadness is what Adam says. Lisa, that game didn't go as I expected. All the things they did right in last night, they didn't do tonight. Very disappointing to come out of the weekend with 0 points. On a happy note, congrats to Cale Makar and being the fastest defenseman to 400 points. Highlight of the weekend for sure. Well, that's the fastest defensive man for Avalanche people. I think there's 2 ahead of him.
Yeah, he's
I think he was third all time.
Fastest Avalanche and third fastest behind Coffee and Orr.
Yeah, definitely Orr. Orr's got everything. Cody says, let's see, I'm slowly turning. There you go. You're gonna like this one. I'm reading these for the first time too. I'm slowly turning to the dark/Kyle side, is what he says. The Avs find themselves in dubiously precarious situations, aka their offseason should be interesting because the pieces they have now just aren't doing it. Is Cody your new best friend?
I think we've always been best friends, and he just hasn't realized it yet.
Dan says, not to sound disrespectful, but that may have been the sloppiest hockey game I've seen from the Avs in a very long time. Let's get back on track Wednesday and take down the Devils. I don't know if it was sloppy. Yeah, no, he's right. I mean, it definitely was sloppy.
And we got spoiled by the Four Nations too.
But
so.
Yeah. But sloppiness didn't stick out to me. Just not being able to do anything correctly or turn the tide is more or less kind of what I'm going for here.
It was sloppy.
Sure, it was sloppiness. Yes.
Yeah, it was sloppy to the point the deserver winometer was probably broken through the gauge and pointing south.
Yeah, it was bad. I did have that up here, but I shut it off. Charles, that was awful. Avs fan forever. How can it be such fantastic hockey in 4 nations to total crap? Totally uninspired with these 2 games. The Nashville game was okay. I
you know what? I like Avs fans forever here. Let's go ahead and start it now. The 4 nations was rigged. Canada's win it's a joke.
Yeah.
Let's go.
Vargar says Vargo's going right in on Blackwood. Blackwood has looked human in his last 2 starts. I don't put this on him, man. I don't put this on it. There was some pretty difficult.
Sam Girard looked bad. So it's the defense. Honestly, those goals, I put them all on the defense, and I don't want to dump on the defense, but it's been atrocious for everybody other than Cale Makar.
And I thought, and even in the Preds game, I thought Wedgwood looked good in the Preds game.
Yeah. It could have been worse.
Oh my God. Game. Yeah. So that's what we got from subtext. As far as what's next for the Avs, 6 straight games at home. And I am not going to do it. I'm not going to sit here and say hey, 6 games at home. That's exactly where they want to be. They play well at home. I can't earlier in this episode say, I don't know what the Avalanche are going to do from game to game, and then sit here and say oh, I'm really happy the next 6 games are at home. But they're big. So you got Wednesday, you have the Devils, and then you have Minnesota on Friday.
Hold on that one.
And then you have, now we're going into March. So your first 4 games of March at home, and it's every other day. The Penguins, San Jose, Toronto, Chicago. So, I mean, between, Devils are a good team. The Minnesota Wild are above you. So that's a big game. Pittsburgh is struggling. San Jose is one of the worst teams in the league. And so are the Blackhawks. So within this stretch, you have 3, and I'm putting a huge asterisk on this, like 3 games that you absolutely should be winning in the Penguins, the Sharks, and the Blackhawks. And then between the Devils, the Wild, and the Maple Leafs, can you find another win in there? And then you get 4 out of 6 at home. Even 8 out of 12 is not really where you need to be right now. If you were 1, 2, or 3 in a division, and you say, hey, 4 and 2 at home, okay, fine. That keeps us where we are in the standings, maybe even up a little bit. But you really need to win 5 out of these 6 games for really, to me, to be impressed and maybe make some headway.
I'm going to give you some good news and bad news. For that Minnesota game, the Colorado Avalanche are currently 4 points back of both the Wild and I believe it is Utah. But St. Louis and everybody else, there's a long gap. So you can make up some points there. Here's some bad news. Going into that Blackhawks game, your Colorado Avalanche are 0-2 versus Chicago this year. Ba-dum-bum.
Not surprised, man. Not surprised. So yeah, and like again, thank you for bringing that up, because as I said, pencil it in with an asterisk. There's the asterisk. You haven't beat them yet.
And it's the first matchup was 5-2. The second one was 3-1.
Yeah,
so it wasn't even close.
I don't know, man. Like it's they really gotta come out with, the Minnesota Wild. I don't know if you watched that game against Detroit on Saturday.
What
Saturday
realm of hell would you think I'm going to turn on a Detroit versus Minnesota game?
Yeah, that's the best game to turn on, man. So you just have nothing but pure hatred towards the entire game. But what did Minnesota do? Like they were losing, and late in the game, they find a way to tie the game. They're down 2 goals, and they score 2 goals late, go into overtime and win it. That's what you want to be doing. Like you can look at Minnesota and be like, oh, when are they going to fall? When are they going to, come back down to earth? We're almost into March. That's not going to happen.
And Quirrell's not coming back anytime soon either.
But they go out and win games like that. Like that, those are momentum builders, and those are what galvanize a team. And you're not seeing that from the Avs. The Avalanche were in the same exact situation that Detroit was in, or excuse me, the Wild were in when they beat Detroit. They were down by 2 and they scored 2 late and pushed it to overtime and found a way to get the extra point. And the Avs are not doing that stuff. So that's where, kind of like your 2 teams are at right now. So we'll see. I mean, this is going to be a big, like you still feel good about the Avalanche making the playoffs, but you need a really, really, you cannot start this homestand on a loss. You can't do it.
He came back from the break with 2 losses against inferior opponents.
Yeah.
So I have
so now that's what it is. Like,
yeah.
Now your back is up against the wall.
Yep.
What do you got? Show me.
And you could have used those points. Those are division.
Oh, huge division. Yeah, huge.
A huge swing, but you just let them, and it didn't bother. That's the thing that guts me the most. Watching that team, it did not bother them. It bothers us at home on the couch.
I can't say that. I'm not in there. I'm not in the locker room. I mean, you watch the in the locker room. Like Nathan McKinnon's not happy.
Yeah, well,
he is not happy. So I'm sure
on the ice in their office, like when you have to get work done, nobody wanted to get that work done. They're just like, a lot of throwing the head back, frustration, but no anger that, hey, I'm sick of losing. That's what I want to see. I'm sick of losing. We can be better. I want to see that in play, not in with a microphone in your face.
So the last thing we got is our sound check. Obviously, that's where we each pick a song that summarizes the most recent game and put these songs up on a playlist over on Spotify, which you can follow along. Just search LOA Sound Check. Volume number 4 is what these songs go on. So what do you got for this one, sir?
I'm going to go back to one of my bands from the 90s, 2000s, Space Hog.
Oh, I love Space Hog.
And honestly, we're going to go Cruel to Be Kind.
Nice.
Because honestly, I'm not shining this turd. Like anything, like if I'm sitting here, we're doing 30 minutes on Cale Makar is the 3rd fastest in history. No, that's what Patrick Waugh got mad at Duchesne for. There's some serious problems with this team, and I'm not going to be kind about it. They know it. We know it. The standings show it. It is going to be cruel to just focus on the kind of things. So you got to be real.
No, makes total sense. Absolutely. And kind of where I'm going with mine is pretty simple. I'm going with AWOL Nation. And the song's I could have went Rage Against the Machine, Wake Up.
No,
but I think I've done that in a past volume. So I went with AWOL Nation, Wake Up. Not to say there's not a cover song or anything like that. AWOL Nation has their own Wake Up song. Because that's what they have to do.
Yeah.
That's absolutely what they got to do. And I hate saying that, as we're almost into March. But it's maybe the right time to really wake up, because you have 6 games at home. And man, if you want to set a tone, it's almost a full 2 weeks that you're at home. Come on, boys. Come on. You still got time here to really turn the tide, but good Lord, it's really getting difficult to feel like there's anything there that's going to happen.
And it doesn't have to be like this.
It doesn't. It's just where we're at.
Yeah.
All right. That will wrap it up for today. So anything that's going on in Avs Nation, we'll be back tomorrow to talk about it. But for today, thank you for tuning in and making this one your first listen of the day. That is always appreciated. He is Mr. Shaggy Von Doom, Kyle Sullivan. I am Chris Maselli. It's a Locked On Avalanche podcast. We'll see you guys tomorrow, and you just made it through another 24 hours. Sidney Crosby is that much closer to being a Colorado Avalanche.